It doesn't have Amerkong available.
Welcome back to the coverage of YCS Bochum 2018, where we're now looking at the top 8 match. We picked 2 great players. We got Edgar Oliver Vera from Spain, the other Spanish player, and the sole remaining Spanish player in the top 32 after his friend, who we featured earlier, Adrian Labrador Fonolosa, got kicked out. He's going up against Typhoon Bayraktar. Typhoon is the reason why we picked this match, although, spoilers ahead, there's lots and lots of different decks in the top 8. But Typhoon is the one that is the standout guy because he's playing Zefra, because that's a thing, and that's in the top 8 of the largest Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament in Europe.
Yeah, naturally.
Naturally.
Did you not expect this? I mean, I did.
He was one of many players. The Italian player who was playing World Chalice, Marco Perico, who is also still in competition, actually walked up to one of the judges like, I thought I'm gonna on my way home at this time. I did not expect to make it this far and still be in competition at this time. Yeah, so it's a weekend of surprises. Maybe we can bring that up for you guys. This is the bracket. This is how everything is shaping up here. We are missing the last result, but that's not a problem. Dinkang Farm, we just saw that in the last match. Maximilian won with his Invoked deck. That's the first deck in the top 8, Invoked. Then the second match, the Greek player, that is Argyris Evangelos, he is playing True Draco. So 2 different decks in the top 8 so far. Third match is Nicolas Krebs. We've seen him earlier, we featured him. He is playing Dino Shadol. I kid you not. 3 different decks in the top 8. Then, lower left corner, Marcus Burtjen kicked out the other Spanish player in the top 32. He is playing Pendulum Magician. So 1 Pendulum Magician so far. Let's look at the right-hand side. On the top right, we got Oliver Vera Delgado, who we're going to feature now. He's playing Trickstar. Then we got Typhoon Bayraktar, I just told you guys, Zefra. So we're looking at 6 different decks so far. Then we got Christopher Nielsen, who advanced to the next round, one of the Denmark's finest players, had international experience. He's also playing Pendulum Magician. So now we have, for the first time, 1 deck that is represented twice. And then the funny story in the bottom right corner, Marco Perico from Italy playing World Chalice. So yes, you are indeed looking at 8 players with 7 different decks. Thank you.
Only a single duplicate on those Pendulum Magicians. So we did expect that to be the most represented, but
not by that.
I myself was expecting to see maybe 6 Pendulum Magicians in the top 8, not just 2, and 7 different decks. That's far more diversity than I was expecting from this event.
You need to believe. You need to believe stronger in all of the other decks. Yeah. That other category this weekend, usually it's the biggest category at the start of the tournament.
Yeah.
If we just kept on sticking with what was considered other, it might still be the strongest category in the top 8.
Yeah.
For the first time ever.
Probably.
We're talking about 4 other category decks in the top 8.
Yeah. Enough other.
This definitely rivals. Yeah, I'll get on Matt right now.
Tell Matt.
This definitely rivals the Amsterdam Euros for the top 4 different decks. So all that has to happen to mirror that is for just one of the Pendulum decks to be out, and then that'll be it.
So obviously we did have some pre-recorded contents where we had some of the best players talking about some of the decks we expected to see this weekend. We cannot use it this weekend because all of the popular decks are not the ones that we're seeing in our feature match. And it's not like we're picking the feature match of table 570. We're actually picking the top features, and there are still the creative decks. So for this round, at least, we got the insights by, I think, Jesse Cotton for Trickstar. So let's bring him on.
So Trickstar is one of the rogue decks for the event. It is specifically an anti-meta choice to beat all the other powerful decks in the room. It's mainly successful because its engine revolves around only having 1 card. You only need 1 Trickstar Candina or Light Stage to get the whole engine going, and then you can play a bunch of support cards to counter all the other decks, stuff like hand traps. Their best combo is their trap card, Trickstar Reincarnation, plus a Droll and Lockbird. Combo together, they just take the entire hand away for your opponent, and that's most unfair thing in the game right now, besides maybe a Magician FTK. That is definitely the most scary thing. The deck's biggest weakness comes from its inability to kill big monsters. Sometimes the deck can just put up big monsters turn after turn. Trickstar won't be able to beat it.
So obviously we did have some pre-recorded contents where we had some of the best players talking about some of the decks we expected to see this weekend. We cannot use it this weekend because all of the popular decks are not the ones that we're seeing in our feature match. And it's not like we're picking the feature match of table 570. We're actually picking the top features, and there are still the creative decks. So for this round, at least, we got the insights by, I think, Jesse Cotton for Trickstar. All right, Canada, when you welcome Jesse Cotton back into the country, don't give him too much of a hard time, right? He's completely wrong when he says Trickstar is one of the rogue decks this weekend. Everything is a rogue deck this weekend, and everything is in the top 8. He's also completely wrong when he's talking about Pendulum FTK, because we don't have it in the top 8. So be kind with him. He's a good guy. We thank you very much, Jesse, for doing that for us. It just turned out that you were completely off.
Yeah, I think everybody was.
Everybody was. Yes. I'm just saying it to provoke. We need to provoke some reactions here.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're gonna provoke the beast that is the Pendulum deck. It now need. Oh, actually, we don't have Pendulum. Sorry. That is the Trickstar deck, the Rogue deck. It needs to stand its ground against Zefra right now in our top 8 feature match. So let's take you there. So here we have Oliver on the left, Typhoon on the right. Typhoon asked us earlier. He's the person who asked, "Do we gonna get a feature match?" We said, "No, we're gonna go with one of the other creative decks in the top 8." He said, "Which one do you mean? Table 1, 2, 3, or 4?" True story, by the way. It's a true story.
That's actually pretty funny.
All right. So who wants to go first here? Does Zefra want to go first?
I assume so. Most decks tend to be wanting to go first, but I haven't seen a lot of Zefra decks around. I don't know what their game plan is. I assume it's going to be based largely around Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. Still a pendulum strategy. It's going to be making good use of that. Obviously, Electromite isn't even a Pendulum Magician card. It's just a generic card for any pendulum strategy.
Right. So it's actually Oliver who's going first. He's got a Pot of Desires, Lilybell, 2 Solemn Strikes. Let's see what that Desires is going to bring.
It's been met with the Ash Blossom for Typhoon.
That's interesting.
So we won't see any cards drawn.
Oof, that's a minus 10. Minus 11 if you add the pot itself. Although there's a hand trap for that. Oof, that's pretty rough. So 2 Solemn Strikes face down for Oliver. It's so weird to say your own name. Now it's Typhoon's turn. He's got Zefraxi, Zefrath, Terraforming, and Zefranyu, Secret of the Yang Zing. Oh, we decided to go with Zefra Yang Zing, by the way, for the name, because he's playing enough Yang Zing cards. And by enough, I mean 7.
3.
7 in the main deck.
Ah, didn't see this. Yeah.
Yang Zing, yeah. Oh, sorry, 9 pillars.
Even more.
Even more, yeah. So it's a fair amount of Yang Zing
Basically
cards.
a Yang Zing deck.
So the Yang Zings can be very powerful, but they're much less good than they used to be. We lost Denglong, first of the Yang Zing, to quite a recent Forbidden Unlimited list. Not the latest one, but it fell in 2017, and now the cards don't quite have the same power plays that they did before.
It's interesting because it never was a super popular deck that a lot of players played. It was only that some really gifted players that worked with the deck for quite a while said, this is a really, really good deck, although hard to play, I think. Is what I heard very often.
Yes. The Denglong itself, we saw quite a lot of from Dinosaur and other strategies that were just able to put out a level 5 synchro. You didn't need to be playing a lot of Yang Zings just to be able to make use of that as a generic level 5 synchro engine, giving access to the very powerful Zefra trap cards.
Right. So, how do you favor Yang Zing going up against Trickstar here?
It's really not something that I know much about. Given how the game has kicked off, it has to be favoring the Yang Zing player. He's got a much stronger opening hand. Trickstar stuck with just 4 cards. 2 Pot of Desires on the opening turn was really rough. And the Zefra player, Typhoon here, seems to be going through his searches, getting the bits that he needs. He's just pendulum summoned for 1 by the looks of things.
Usually that is good news.
For the opponent, yeah.
Yeah, if you... Thank you for that addition, yes.
But that pendulum summon of Zefranyu allows him to search for the Zefra counter trap. Or is it the Yang Zing counter trap? He's playing 9 Pillars and Zefra Divine Strike.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure which one of those it was that he got when Zefranyu was special summoned.
Yeah, I'm gonna see it in a minute. Once it hits play.
I think that's
it looked like 9 pillars.
9 Pillars of the Yang Zing. So, yeah.
It is. I wasn't sure if I counted 8 or 9 pillars, but it was the 9 pillars, yes.
Yeah, there we go. You see the...
Zefraxiton, when it's summoned, is able to target a
It's a pendulum.
Knight or Zefra card you control and a face-up card that the opponent controls and destroy both.
Yeah, so Solemn Strike bites the dust. But you could have chained to that, right?
Yeah, I do believe that that strike could have been used to negate that effect and destroy the Zefraxiton.
Yeah, there was no reason really not to do that either, because he took more damage by the attack of... He's going to take more damage by the attack of Zefra.
Perhaps Oliver felt that disrupting the pendulum scale was actually going to be hurting Typhoon more than it would hurt Oliver to lose the strike.
Yeah.
Here's a second attempt at the Pot of Desires. This time it is going through. It is not. I'm taking everything back I just tried to say. And that is actually enough disruption from Zefra Young Zing, played by Typhoon, to score the victory in their first game.
My mind is blown right now.
It's super crazy. He dropped a hand trap and then a counter trap, and that was enough.
Yeah, job done.
In a way. It wasn't so much his own deck going off. It was more him stopping his opponent from going off.
I've got this strange feeling like this. You know, there's a lot of times where we see decks with huge power ceilings who do crazy things, but Tayfun's deck here did exactly something. Is the reason that he is here because he is able to very consistently perform this exact maneuver?
Yeah, that's a question that we might ask him later on, if he's lucky enough to win that second game, or the third game, a possible third game.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the full power of this deck.
No, nobody's saying that. But it's more like every other deck wins by assembling a gigantic field and then overwhelming your opponent. This was not the case. It didn't look like that. He had a reasonable field, let's just call it that, but he had enough disruption to stop his opponent from doing anything really.
Yeah, this kind of looked like this was the minimum that Tayfun could do with not so much advantage.
I'm expecting to see some fairly big plays with Heavy Metal Foes Electromite coming in here. So
with a much better hand, but I think this was kind of all I'm saying is this looked like Tayfun's kind of low base of what the deck could do. The floor of the deck seems very high.
Oh my god.
That's what it seems like.
It's going to be a very weird house that the Zefras are living in. They have a high ceiling and a high floor.
Yeah.
Not much air between those two.
A house on stilts.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was going to say a castle in the sky, but...
Yeah. They are not known for their stills.
No, they're known for things in the sky, though.
Yeah, flying dragons.
Flying dragons.
All right, now it's going to be time to side deck for both of these guys. Typhoon is playing some cards in the side deck, or at least one of them that we've not seen all weekend. That is an Armageddon Knight. Interesting. He's also playing Cosmic Cyclone, Dark Hole, Dimensional Barrier, Evenly Matched Raigeki in set rotation. 3 of those cards with 1 copy each, of course. Dark Hole, Raigeki in set rotation.
So the Armageddon Knights here seem like they're most likely to be looking for ways into Destrudo. Any deck that plays field spells can use Destrudo into Ancient Fairy Dragon to switch between field spells and gain extra summons. Having said that, I don't think we even see Ancient Fairy Dragon in his extra deck, so other level 7 synchros, Black Rose Dragon, Yazi, Evil of the Yangzing, very strong in this deck.
Yazi's super good, and it can't be targeted, which is... now it's kind of reversed again. Now that we're not seeing so much resort, people are starting to play targeting things. Yeah. So Yazi may end up being quite good.
It's weird. It's weird. On the other hand side, we see some Kaijus in the side deck together with Cosmic Cyclone. Yeah.
Very powerful against Zefras being activated in the scales and the field spells.
Artifact Lancia, Dimensional Barrier. I'm translating stuff in my head. And then I'm not sure what Pelea Paneia is. Pelea Paneia? Not sure what that is.
If other side decks have been anything to go by, it's probably evenly matched.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It's For some reason, the sound of that card in all the other languages is kind of the same.
Yeah.
Like,
Da 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 da.
okay, so this time it is Oliver kicking things off. Actually, it's the second time he's kicking things off, but this time with a much better hand.
Yes,
At
and
least
we don't see an Ash Blossom coming down for Typhoon.
Yeah, that's the important part. I think it's actually more that his opponent's hand is worse.
Driver.
Frame Driver. Not ever a card that you want to be seeing in your opening hand.
But so much hand traps in Oliver's hand.
Yeah, we have 2 copies of Ghost Ogre.
Yeah, he wouldn't have minded going second here. So we're missing 1 card in hand for Typhoon. Is
I
it?
think it's a Cyframe Gear Gamma. So if he's able
that
to
would explain
bait out the activation of a Ghost Ogre before he can place a monster on the field, he can summon that Gamma from his hand and the driver and get himself an Omega for negating that hand trap. We see Gamma, a very popular card. It's fine going second. You're able to shut down your opponent's monster effects on their first turn. But where it really shines is if you're able to use it on your turn to negate a hand trap that would stop your play, and then pick up an Omega and continue your plays uninterrupted by that hand trap.
Yep, you get a free synchro if you manage to get it done on your turn. But
There's an Ash Blossom.
yeah, I'm really not a huge fan of Gamma anymore. I think instant fusion into Millennium Eyes is way better.
There's an argument to be had.
Yeah,
But we've seen that move once this weekend, so not that many times yet.
yeah, I think it's going to pick up in popularity.
It does depend a great deal on whether the deck has the space in the extra deck to facilitate that.
Yeah, that's true, and I don't think that this is the kind of deck that would have extra deck space.
Not so much,
So
no.
it's hard to, yeah, when you see lots of one-offs. Like Photon Strike Bouncer, for example, is that really 100% necessary?
It's not a card that we've seen a lot of recently.
Yeah.
If we ask him, he's going to tell you about that one game that he only won
Yeah.
because of that card.
Yeah.
Now, it's all well and good that you can win a game with a particular card, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's still the right choice. A lot of deck building errors can actually come from people winning games because of bad cards and then
Sticking out to
yeah, they stick to something because it has won a game for them, even though that it's not actually helping them in the majority of occasions. You need to warn yourself away from becoming too results-orientated when you're making those deck decisions.
Right. So now we see the Trickstars putting in some work here.
Yeah, there's definitely an argument to be had about that point, Tom, with results-driven versus theory-driven Yu-Gi-Oh. I think
Yeah.
some people certainly believe one ways, and some people believe the other.
Yeah, there are times when the results
This is
really
it. Trickstar just tied up the games here.
Yeah, I think Tayfun really had a bit of a bad hand there.
And he knew that there was more burn damage coming. And
Yeah.
there was already something on the field. Some attacks had just been made. So he was getting low on life points, and then he sees the writing on the wall. He's like, yeah, I know what's coming. It's fine. Let's just go to the third game.
Yeah.
the Armageddon Knight was his only avenue to make a play there. That was instantly shut down by the Ash Blossom, and he was just sat on a hand with nothing else left to do. So he's forced to take it to the game 3.
Ash Blossom on an Armageddon Knight is also something you don't see every day.
No, you don't really see Armageddon Knight every day. He's busy in the darkness.
Well, Armageddon Knight is a card that I'd certainly be happy to see a lot more of. We've seen Destrudo being played in all sorts of decks, and Armageddon Knight is a normal summon, 1-card, level 7 synchro. And there are lots of good level 7 synchros out there.
Interesting. Putting it that way.
Vermilion
makes-
Dragon Mech.
Makes you wonder why not more players are going for it. Although some would argue that a 1-card level 7 synchro is no longer good enough.
Yeah, I think the major downside to things like Armageddon Knight is that it uses up your normal summon for the turn. Unless you're playing a deck that has the ability to pendulum summon it, Armageddon Knight's effect triggering regardless of how it's summoned. Just that one-of resource of the normal summon is very precious. It's one of the few resources that we see still continuing to function in exactly the way that it has done since a long time ago in the game. Previously, resource management used to be a lot more about controlling how many cards you have and how many cards your opponent has. But even then, your one normal summon was critical.
Right.
Now, most of the plays that players are making return as many cards to the hand as it took to invest in making that play. And so the resources that don't cost you cards, like your one-of battle phase, your one-of normal summon, those are still absolutely dominating the choices that players make, even if they have unlimited cards available to them.
It's a funny way of putting it. Unlimited cards. But very true.
Yeah, that's why I really think that some of the matchups that we're seeing where people are grinding right down to no resources, the truly better player does end up winning because they're playing to
you mentioned
much
yesterday
more strengths.
Joshua Schmidt's win rate, for example, which was 80 something.
It's above 80%. Yeah.
Yeah. So like if you line up 20 players, only 2 of them or 3 of them are going to be able to take a match from him.
It's pretty crazy.
And that was before this weekend. His weekend was okay, but not up to his regular standard. Otherwise, obviously, he would be in the top 32.
Yeah, still, that's just...
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from him.
But these players here, they've clearly pushed all their way to the top 8, so they must be doing this right at least. We see a very interesting hand for Oliver here. He's got the Kaiju Slumber and 2 Kaijus in his hand. How many total Kaijus does he have in the deck? Has he just turned off his Slumber by opening up with 2 of them?
Here's really important. He has Gamma, and he's just been drawled.
This is exactly what we were talking about in the previous game. The hand trap's coming down, but with no monsters on the field, Typhoon is able to activate that Gamma in his hand, turn off the Droll and Lockbird, and secure himself a free level 8 Synchro.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Such a good card.
Yeah. Amazing. So much better than that Millenniumized thing.
Yeah. Eat your words.
In this specific scenario, it's just so much better. Yeah, it is so much better.
Crazy. The hand trap is actually your advantage here.
Yeah, and in fact, you have taken away 2 cards of your opponent's hand.
Oh my god, what an opening.
Yeah, okay, just a Kaiju. the
Kaiju.
Desires would have been better.
Those Kaijus are really looking like they're a problem for Oliver here.
Yeah.
I see in his side deck that he has a Slumber and just 3 other Kaiju monsters, so with 2 of the Kaijus already out of his deck, that's a Slumber in his hand that can't summon anything at all.
Yeah, so he's not even going to be able to play Slumber, is he? Because it has to summon them both.
Yeah, it has to summon 2 Kaijus from the deck.
Wow, so that is a dead card. So essentially, he is only playing with the Desires and the 2 Kaiju, well, 1 Kaiju next turn.
So things are shaping up real nicely for Typhoon Bayraktar, who's on a roll right now. He's able to now Pendulum Summon.
I expect we're going to see Typhoon just tying things up really quickly here. That Zefra in his extra deck, as we saw in Game 1, will be able to search him for the 9 pillars of the Zing. He'll have a negation for that Port of Desires, leaving just 1 card top deck for Oliver to try and find a resolution to this problem.
Right. Oof, this is going to hurt. This is going to be... There's the 9 pillars.
And here we see Electromite.
Yeah, so this is the, we're really starting to see the ceiling of this deck, what its absolute potential is here.
It's very high up in the sky.
It is.
The effect of Zefra sat in the pendulum scale at the moment. Not one that I have ever seen activated, but I believe it has the ability to grant a 2nd pendulum summon in a single turn.
Yep.
So which card?
That's correct. Yeah, I think it's got some kind of restriction where you can only pendulum summon Zefra monsters or something like that.
That's true for almost all of the Zefra monsters, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, actually, that's not true for this card. During your main phase, you can add one Zefra Pendulum monster from your deck to your extra deck face up. That's the Pendulum effect. If you do, change this card's Pendulum scale to be the same as that Pendulum monsters until the end of this turn.
Oh,
you can only use it once per turn.
Yeah, maybe it's the
No drawback or anything. Must be special summoned from your extra deck by tributing all monsters you control, including at least 3 Zefra monsters. So talk about a big investment. And cannot be special summoned by other ways. After you special summon this card, you can conduct one Pendulum summon of a Zefra monster during your main phase this turn, in addition to your Pendulum summon. And you can only gain this effect once per turn. And also once per turn, because texts these days, they just go on and go on. You can tribute one monster, special summon one Zefra monster from your deck. And keep in mind, guys, you want to tribute those Zefra monsters. Half of them are triggering when they're being tributed.
Yeah.
And you'll just be able to Pendulum summon them back to the field with your additional Pendulum summon afterwards.
So, hard to get out, but once it's out, pretty good card.
Yeah. Oliver's really got his back up against the wall here. He's found a Candina for the start of his turn, but...
There's so many negates.
Staring down Zefra Divine Strike and 9 Pillars of the Zing, so his first 2 plays are likely to be stopped here.
Come on, be frivolous.
Yep.
You have to be with these negates. You need to just throw them out because you have 2. You have 2. He has 4 cards. You know.
Zefraniu triggering on the destruction from the 9 Pillars to search for a new card. I don't think it's going to matter though, because as soon as that Pot of Desires is taken out, there's nothing left for Oliver.
Yeah.
Oof, the writing is on the wall. It's materializing right in front of our eyes. He's got one more activation here, Oliver, Vera, Delgado, and there's a very good chance that Zefra Divine Strike is going to mean game for Typhoon Bayraktar, who would then advance to the semi-finals of YCS Bochum.
I never thought I would see a Zefra player in the top 4 of the largest European YCS ever.
So,
wow.
I think Oliver is thinking right now, but there is only one option, really. Because the Kaiju Slumber is dead. We talked about that earlier. Here is the pot. Is there no Divine Strike?
Well, he'll wait until the cost is paid, banishing the 10 cards, and then I think we'll see the Divine Strike flipped up. And the hand will be extended for the end of the match.
That is it, yes. Woo, talk about a bold prediction coming true 100%. Typhoon Bayraktar, he can tell with the body language in the upper right corner, he's smiling, he's getting really casual, laid back, shuffling his cards and making sure that he's ready for the semi-finals.
Yeah, we finished so soon, we may even be able to grab another match.
Oh, maybe that is an opportunity, yeah.
Yeah.
With that, we're gonna... do you have to prepare something for that, or do we gonna... Okay, so... Yeah. We're going to lose Luke, but we two are going to talk about the post-match discussion. How about that? Yeah, we just lost the commentator, but he's hard at work for you guys because he wants to make sure that we might be able to bring in another feature match for this round. It's going to be tough because we might have to type up the deck list and everything before we can put it on the stream, but who knows. Let's talk about this match, though. We did have... Edgar Oliver Vera from Spain, the last Spanish player in competition, going up against Typhoon Bayraktar from Germany, the last Zefra player in the competition. And I think this might have been true, almost true, at the beginning of this day. Like, there were not that many Zefra players this morning.
That's true, but we saw 2 Zefra players and 2 Spanish players making it into the top 32.
Yeah.
So until quite recently, these weren't the only one left of their kind.
That's true, yeah. They are endangered species, but they are not extinct yet.
But the Zefra player, we see, marches on to the top 4.
Yeah, but again, even in that second game, it wasn't that he was building a gigantic field with like 4 monsters like the dinos used to do all the time. It was more like he's biding his time, he's setting something up, he's applying pressure. I'm not saying he's not doing nothing, but for the most part, it's his disruption that is shutting his opponent down. That is the key to victory for him.
So as you say, the disruption, the 2 counter traps that we saw there, 9 Pillars of the Zing and Zefra Divine Strike, both of them, I believe, able to negate monster effects or spells or trap cards.
Right.
So not quite the same, but very similar to Solemn Judgment, but without that huge life point cost associated.
Yeah. So definitely that Zefra deck, you should take another look at it. it's a bit confusing from the perspective that it doesn't win in like a flashy way. You don't see those explosive megaturns. I mean, you used to see them prior to the last ban list, if I remember correctly.
It was a previous ban list in last year, not the most recent one.
Oh, right.
But yes, they lost Denglong.
And that made a big difference.
It makes a big difference. It takes away some of the most powerful plays that the deck has, but even without it, we see it's still able to perform on the top level here.
Absolutely. And Typhoon was pretty relaxed for the most part of this match. He was biding his time. He knew exactly when he had to negate. And then when it was crunch time, he was always like, yeah, I'm ready for this. I got this.
Completely. It felt to me like he didn't really expect himself to be there. He's just playing out his games for fun at this point. He's riding the wave with his Zefra deck. He's doing everything right, and he's got those counter traps negating things to just shut down everything his opponents are throwing at him.
Absolutely. We are talking about the deck breakdown this weekend quite a lot. We're saying it's a very diverse field. We can give you guys a little bit more background information and bring up the stats. This is the initial deck breakdown going into round 1. Big story there is that the top 5 decks are not making up 40% of the field like we've seen in the past. There's a lot and lots and lots of decks in these other category. After day 1, going into day 2, this is the picture. And while the top 5 decks are now making up a larger part of the field when comparing it to the initial breakdown, we still have a very nice distribution of decks basically. With Pendulum Magician, they are in first with 85, but you have to keep in mind they initially had 272 players coming up with that deck. Trickstar was bleeding quite a bit, from 174 down to just 46, so that indicates or shows us that it might have not been the best choice for this weekend.
We see conversion rates here really starting to take effect. Lots of players bringing Trickstar. We did note at the start of the tournament that it's often a more popular choice with newer players. The combos tend to be a bit easier to play through, but those newer players, not always the most likely to go all of the way.
Yeah.
A few veterans also will be playing the deck, and they might have excellent success with it, but the conversion rate, not as high as True Draco, which tends to be very popular with players who've played the game a lot more.
And speaking of the veterans that you just mentioned, another group of players that were very experienced must have gone with Paleozoic Frogs, because those didn't even show up in the initial metagame breakdown for round 1, and suddenly they are among the most popular decks. So they also sneaked up quite a few places, just like Invoked Mech Knights. Those we also did not have on the radar. So we did another cut down from those 444 players to just 32 players. This is what it looked like when we started with the knockout portion of the tournament. There, suddenly, for the first time ever, Other was not the most popular deck. We had 9 Pendulum Magician decks. Still a lot less than what some people were expecting, especially after YCS Atlanta. And speaking of YCS Atlanta, that's also where we saw that Pendulum FTK deck for the first time.
Yeah, the Pendulum FTK was one that I was expecting to see a lot of going into this event. We did have just shy 100 players taking it into round 1, but only 2 of them ending up in the top cut here, whereas the Pendulum Magician deck had about 3 times as many players entering with it, but more than 4 times as many making it through to the top cut. So actually a better conversion rate for the Pendulum Magician deck without the FTK combo.
Yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting to see. Then True Draco and Trickstar still in number 2 and number 3, just like at the start of day 2. So no big shake up there. Then Lightsworn Zombie Grass, Invoked Mech Knight, Pendulum FTK, Dinosaurs, Paleozoic Frogs. We know for a fact we had 2 Zefra players. They were just listed as other decks. Otherwise, they would be in front of Dinosaurs and Paleozoic Frogs. And I think there was another deck that we had twice, which was a super crazy deck. I mean, we had the Dino Shadol deck, for example, also in the top 32. So overall, like we said, one of the most diverse meta games we've ever had in any tournament. So this was one of those weekends that you really should have not been missing out on.
Yeah.
This is when you could have had a really, really good time as a player.
It's been absolutely mad seeing so many decks do well. Before the start of the tournament, as part of this, I was asked to write a list of the decks to expect to help our coverage team out. I wrote a list of 30 different decks that I thought were going to be...
Sounds a bit excessive, but suddenly you're right.
I wasn't even able to catch all of them in 30, though.
Okay.
I wrote out the 30 decks that I expected to be the most represented, and still, outside of those 30, we have everything that's fallen into this other category. Things like Zefra, I wasn't expecting to see.
Right.
And there's just been so much going on.
So, guys, we did actually indeed find a second feature match. Luke was basically like the Flash. He was like running around in the venue and making sure that everything would work out nicely. That means that we're currently in the setup process for that potential third game, could also be the second game of this particular match that we're gonna... It is the second game. I'm getting so many information right now. So basically you get 2 feature matches for the price of 1. And the price for 1 for you guys is just sitting there and watching it, because everything here is free. Doesn't get any better than that. We're gonna continue our setup process. I don't know if we should take a break or just continue talking. I think I'm good with talking. So what we're going to do for you guys, we're going to bring up the top 16 bracket, where we're going to look a little bit at how these top 32 have unfolded, if we can bring that up. Thank you very much. So this is not the most recent version of this, but things that you can take note of is that we don't have that many players that have won a tournament before. Out of those 16 players that we see on this gigantic bracket here, I remember obviously Stefano Memoli, who actually is not even on the bracket. He was in the top 32 but got kicked out before we even made it to the top 16. So this is one of the named players, a former European champion. He was kicked out by Oliver Vera Delgado, who just lost in the feature match. So that is in the upper right corner. That is the upper right branch of that tree. Christopher Nielsen from Denmark was successful in his top 16 match against Sahab Shah from the UK. Was he the last player from the UK in the top 16? Yes.
I believe so, yes.
Yes. So Denmark is currently going up against Marco Perico from Italy, who is playing World Chalice, because things are crazy this weekend. His opponent was Nicolas Meyer, who was playing Trickstar, just like what we saw in our feature match just now. We are now moving to the other side of that gigantic bracket with Argyris Evangelos.
Yes, and it's Argyris that we're going to be seeing in our backup feature match for this top 8. He's up against Maximilian
Kiesling, who we featured before, so you already know what he's playing. He is playing Invoked Magnites. Wild Luke appeared. Yeah, it's like I let go of my Pokeball.
Out of nowhere. So, yeah, I did some stuff. And we have another feature match.
And I think we're ready.
We are ready.
Do you have the story of the match so far?
Oh, it's an intense story.
Okay.
Which
let's listen to this.
I've been informed needs to be quite long. So, the True Draco player won the first game.
That is the story?
That's all I got.
Okay. How did that take 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a difficult story to tell, difficult story to digest. You know, I really want the Mekk-Knight. This is Zefra. I really want the Mekk-Knight player to win.
Okay.
I do have a bit more information for you than just that from a different match. World Chalice is in top 4.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
is Zefra, World Chalice.
And Marco's really going to get angry with us. He wanted to be on his way home like 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
That poor
World
guy.
Chalice in the top 4. Zefra in the top 4.
4.
Yeah.
Either Mekk-Knight Invoked or True Draco is in the top 4. So we have
this is like
guaranteed 4 different decks in the top 4.
If somebody's like just watching at the breakdowns, they're going to be like, what was this, like a free-for-all? Did they do like a die rolling competition or something like that? And no, they actually played.
The World Chalice deck, it's against the Zefra deck.
Oh my god.
So maybe we might see that next time.
This bracket is getting weirder and weirder. It's like somebody was taking some drugs when he was creating that. But apparently all of these guys with these crazy decks, they are doing really, really well this weekend.
Yeah.
So you've said that True Draco has taken game 1.
Yeah, so True Draco took game 1. They just finished side decking, and we managed to just grab them before the next game.
Okay, so the True Draco deck here is full of continuous trap cards, set up to floodgate the game here. Skill Drain, Monarch's Erupt, Anti-Spell Fragrance. I think from that we can expect that the Mech Knight Invoked player, Maximilian, we've seen before, is going to want to play first. He wants to be able to get something onto the board before he's locked down by those floodgates. He's likely to be taking first. What can we expect to see from the side decks here if we're likely to be seeing Maximilian playing first?
Yeah, which is odd because, honestly, Mech Knights don't really want to be playing first. So that's...
So we are in the setup process for this match, just so you guys know. We have a little bit more time. The players haven't started yet. So,
so the side
let's
decks.
look at the side decks. We do have some disruption in form of hand traps for Evangelos.
Yeah, Evangelos, yeah. So the Ash Blossoms, always pretty good, especially against like the field spell, Alistair, those kinds of things for the invoked side of it. Mech Knight's not too sure. There's it's pretty good against Blue Sky and Purple, I think, also.
Yeah, I think it would be able to negate the entire effect, including the monster would then not even be banished from the field, which is often the goal of using the effect of Purple Nightfall.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So that actually would be pretty impactful in this matchup.
The Winged Dragon of Ra, Sphere Mode.
Yeah, Sphere Mode. I don't know how I feel about that one. Because maybe it depends if the Mech Knight player gets a really good start and they're able to summon a lot of them. Yeah. Well, but Ra Sphere Mode's always the same, right? Yeah, the noise. Yeah,
it's very versatile. That noise.
Yeah, Ra Sphere Mode is always the same. If it works, oh, does it work? You're taking away 3 monsters and giving your opponent a big ball of gold, and it's not even that good. You can't melt it down.
Its attack points is the same as its shape.
Exactly that. So that's not all that great.
Do we see Imperial Iron Wall in the side deck there?
Yeah, it's right at the bottom.
Yes,
I was
we do.
culminating to it. Yes, Imperial Iron Wall. So that's huge against this matchup.
Invocation, not a big fan of Imperial Iron Wall.
No, Invocation is definitely not.
Mech Knight Purple Nightfall, not a big fan of Imperial Iron Wall.
No.
Cosmic Cyclones, likely to be sided in. Depends who resolves first.
This is gonna be very interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So what about a Mech Knight player? So obviously he lost the first game.
There's like the entire Kaiju engine in the side deck with 5 cards.
Kaiju
4 or 5 cards.
Very, very strong against True Dracos. All of the True Draco monsters, very hard to get over in battle. They can be protected by the battle protection of the Dragonic Diagram.
Yep.
Masterpiece and Majesty Maiden, typically the monsters on the field. Majesty Maiden wants to remain on the field to see one of the triggers of the opponent's effects, search for new monsters. Masterpiece needs to stay up to be the negation.
Generally, they're just annoying, right? They're just big and annoying.
Yep.
All of them.
There's a Kaiji for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Kaiju for that.
Definitely.
This tournament, it reminds me more and more of that mega tournament in America where Dark World won. Where nobody... we would like to start with the match. Just a question from our tech department. Yes, even if the app is not working, we do not want to keep the tournament waiting. That is the cue that they needed, and with that, we can take you guys. Yeah, the show must go on indeed. So with that, guys, we're going to take you over there to the feature match table, and we're going to continue with the top 8, the second match in the top 8 of our feature.